My name is Nora, and at 34 years old, I thought I had finally earned my parents' recognition. After 12 years of sacrifice, I bought them a beautiful house believing this would prove my worth. 3 weeks later, they gave it to my younger sister Amy because she needed it more with her family. 6 months after that, they stood at my doorstep with their luggage expecting to move in. Before I share what happened next, where are you watching from? Please hit like and subscribe if you've ever felt invisible in your own family. Growing up as the eldest daughter in a traditional American household meant responsibility fell on my shoulders before I even understood what that word meant. I was 8 years old when Amy arrived, this tiny bundle that immediately became the center of our parents' universe. While I helped with chores and maintained straight A's, Amy's smallest achievements sparked celebrations. Her first word, her first step, her first day of kindergarten, each milestone overshadowed anything I accomplished. By high school, the pattern had solidified. I won academic awards that went unnoticed, while Amy's participation trophy in junior soccer earned a special dinner. I worked evenings at the local grocery store to save for college applications. Amy got an allowance for simply existing. Our parents would say I was mature enough to understand that Amy needed more attention because she was younger. That explanation followed me through graduation, where I stood as valedictorian to half-empty chairs. Mom and Dad left early because Amy felt sick. She was 10 and had eaten too much candy. College brought 3 jobs: morning shifts at the campus coffee shop, afternoon tutoring sessions, weekend retail work. Every penny counted. Financial aid covered tuition barely, but books, food, and rent demanded constant hustle. Meanwhile, Amy entered high school with designer clothes and the latest phone. Our parents justified it, saying I was building character while Amy needed confidence. I sent money home monthly, $50 here, $100 there, whenever I could spare it. Dad's construction work had slowed Mom's arthritis, made her housekeeping jobs harder. They never asked, but I knew they needed help. My marketing degree led to an entry-level position at a firm downtown. $45,000 a year felt like fortune until taxes, student loans, and family support carved it down to survival wages. I lived in a studio apartment where the radiator clanged all night and cockroaches were roommates I never invited. My car, a 15-year-old Honda with 200,000 miles, required prayer and luck each morning to start. But I had a plan. Every sacrifice served a purpose. Amy dropped out of community college at 20. She met Brad at a music festival, got pregnant at 21, married at 22. Our parents threw her a wedding that cost more than my entire year's rent. They said young love deserved celebration. When Amy's second child arrived barely a year later, our parents moved closer to help with babysitting. They aged rapidly, their rental house deteriorating around them. The landlord ignored repair requests. Winter meant choosing between heat and groceries. Summer brought mice and mold. 5 years into my career, promotions had doubled my salary. Instead of upgrading my life, I intensified saving. Friday nights meant overtime instead of dates. Vacations became staycations. Friends stopped inviting me out because I always declined. 2 relationships ended when men realized I prioritized financial goals over romantic dinners. They couldn't understand why a successful woman lived like a college student. My therapist said I was seeking validation through sacrifice. Maybe she was right. Every month, I watched my savings grow, imagining the day I could hand my parents keys to their own home. Not a rental with peeling paint and drafty windows, but something solid, safe theirs. Dad could have his workshop. Mom could plant gardens without asking permission. They'd finally rest after decades of struggle. The math was simple, yet brutal. Down payment needed $30,000. Closing costs another $10. Furniture and moving 5 more. Emergency fund for their maintenance $10. $55,000 total. At my saving rate, it would take 5 years. I marked my calendar. January 15th would be the day. Amy called occasionally, usually needing something. Her kids were cute but expensive. Brad's job at the warehouse didn't pay enough. Could I help with their car payment? Could I cover the kids' dental work? Each request came wrapped in guilt. She'd mention how our parents helped them constantly, how family supported family. I usually sent something hating myself for enabling while unable to refuse. Lisa, my only close friend, watched this dysfunction with increasing concern. She'd grown up in foster care, understood complicated family dynamics, but couldn't grasp why I martyred myself for people who barely acknowledged my existence. Our wine nights became therapy sessions, where she'd list every instance of favoritism while I defended behaviors that hurt me. 4 years passed. My position advanced to marketing manager. 6 figures felt surreal for someone who'd eaten ramen for months straight. Still, I maintained my Spartan lifestyle. The studio apartment's rent control meant more savings. The Honda lasted another year before dying completely. I bought a used Toyota, reliable but unremarkable. Designer clothes remained foreign concepts. Salvation Army provided my wardrobe. Year 5 arrived faster than expected. My savings account showed $58,000, slightly over target, thanks to an unexpected bonus. House hunting began secretly. I needed something perfect but affordable, safe but not extravagant. 3 months of weekends spent touring properties with a patient realtor who understood this wasn't just a house, but a culmination of everything. The winner sat on Maple Street, a tree-lined neighborhood where kids rode bikes and neighbors knew names. 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, single story to accommodate aging knees. The kitchen faced east, catching morning sun Mom always loved. The basement could become Dad's workshop. The backyard had space for gardens and grandchildren playing. At $220,000, it stretched my budget but felt right. Closing day arrived in March. My hands trembled signing papers. The realtor assumed it was first-time buyer nerves. She didn't know about the years of cup noodles, declined invitations, and loneliness that led to this moment. The keys felt heavier than metal should weighted with expectation and hope. I spent 2 weeks preparing everything before the reveal. Professional cleaners made every surface shine. A landscaping crew transformed the overgrown yard into something magazine-worthy. Mom's favorite flowers, petunias and marigolds, already bloomed in freshly mulched beds. The garage got organized with a workshop bench and tool pegboard for Dad. Inside, I furnished it thoughtfully, but not extravagantly. The living room held a comfortable sectional in navy blue, Mom's favorite color. The dining table could extend for family gatherings. Each bedroom got new mattresses, quality ones that would help with their increasing aches. The master bathroom had grab bars installed discreetly, a walk-in shower with a bench, everything to age safely in place. The kitchen became my masterpiece. New appliances in stainless steel, including the gas stove Mom had dreamed about for 30 years. I stocked the pantry with their favorite foods. Coffee maker programmed for Dad's 5:30 morning routine. Cookie jars filled with Mom's preferred ginger snaps. Every detail considered, planned, executed with love. Sunday, April 2nd. I called them, suggesting lunch at their favorite restaurant, then a drive to see spring flowers blooming. They agreed, unsuspecting. Mom wore her good dress, the floral one saved for special occasions. Dad complained about wasting gas driving around, but came anyway. I picked them up in a rental car, something nicer than my Toyota, adding to the surprise. The drive took 20 minutes. They chatted about Amy's kids, how fast they grew, how expensive everything was getting. I hummed agreement, my heart racing as we turned onto Maple Street. When I pulled into the driveway, Dad noticed the house first. "This is beautiful," he said. "Whose place is this?" I handed them an envelope. Inside, the deed with their names. The silence stretched forever before Mom started crying. Dad's weathered hands shook, holding the paper. They seemed smaller, suddenly vulnerable in their disbelief. The tour took an hour. Mom kept touching things like they might disappear. The kitchen stove got turned on and off 3 times. Dad stood in the garage workshop, speechless, running his fingers over tools I'd mounted on the pegboard. When we reached the master bedroom, Mom sat on the bed and sobbed. Real tears. Not the performative ones she sometimes used, but deep, chest-shaking sobs. "You did this. For us." Dad's voice cracked. Every overtime hour, every skipped vacation, every lonely Friday night felt worth it in that moment. They hugged me together, a sandwich of gratitude and shock. Mom whispered that I was such a good daughter that they didn't deserve this. Dad said he was proud that he'd raised me right. Those words, rare as diamonds, made my own tears fall. We called Amy to share the news. She said she'd come right over with Brad and the kids. Her voice sounded strange tight, but I attributed it to surprise. While waiting, my parents explored every inch again. Mom had already mentally placed her sewing machine in the spare room. Dad listed projects for the workshop. They looked younger, lighter, like the house had erased years of worry. Amy arrived 2 hours later. The kids ran through the house, screaming with excitement. Brad whistled at the property value. Amy hugged our parents, then me, her embrace brief and cool. She toured with everyone making comments that felt backhanded. Must be nice having money to throw around. Some people get all the luck with careers. Hope you didn't go into debt for this. Dinner was pizza in the new dining room. Amy dominated conversation, discussing her struggles with the kids' school, Brad's job, stress, their apartment's problems. Our parents listened sympathetically, offering to help more with babysitting now that they'd have space. I sat quietly eating my slice, feeling the familiar shift of attention away from what I'd accomplished. That night, dropping my parents at their rental to pack, Mom squeezed my hand. "Tomorrow we start moving," she said. "This is the best gift anyone's ever given us." Dad nodded, already planning which tools to bring first. I drove home to my studio apartment feeling accomplished. Finally, I'd done something they couldn't ignore or minimize. Finally, I'd proven my worth in concrete, undeniable terms. Sleep came easily that night. No anxiety dreams, no worry about bills or savings goals. Just peace. I'd done it. The impossible task completed. My parents would be safe, comfortable, happy. The house would be filled with family dinners, grandchildren playing holiday celebrations. I'd given them security and dignity. Nothing could diminish that. The next morning, I helped them start packing. 30 years of accumulation in their rental required sorting. Keep donate trash piles grew. Amy showed up briefly, took some items she claimed sentimental value for, then left citing kid obligations. Brad loaded their truck with boxes while Dad and I disassembled furniture. Mom wrapped dishes in newspaper humming hymns. A week of this routine. Work, then helping pack and move. My evenings disappeared into cardboard and bubble wrap, but I didn't mind. Seeing them in the house, planning where pictures would hang, which vegetables to plant, made every sore muscle worthwhile. They'd thank me repeatedly, still disbelieving their fortune. Dad even suggested having a family barbecue to celebrate once they settled. The final moving day arrived. Their rental stood empty except for items the landlord could keep or trash. Dad handed over keys without ceremony. 40 years of renting, never owning, finally ended. We caravanned to Maple Street, their car packed with the last boxes, my Toyota following. Pulling into their driveway, not a rental's driveway, but theirs felt like completing a marathon. That evening, after the last box was inside, we sat on the back porch, watching the sunset. Mom held Dad's hand. They looked content in a way I'd never seen. Like they could finally exhale after holding their breath for decades. Mom said she wanted to host Easter next week, have everyone over. I agreed to help cook already. Imagining the table set with her good china finally having a proper home, I left them there sitting in their new piece and drove back to my studio. The space felt smaller, shabbier, but it didn't matter. My sacrifice had purchased something priceless. Their security, their happiness, their home. Tomorrow I'd start saving again, this time for myself. Maybe a one-bedroom apartment. Maybe a vacation. The future felt full of possibilities now that this weight had lifted. 3 weeks later, I decided to surprise them with hanging baskets for the front porch. The nursery had beautiful Boston ferns that would look perfect. It was Saturday morning, sunny and warm. I didn't call ahead, wanting to see their delight at the unexpected gift. Maple Street looked peaceful as always. Kids played in yards. Someone mowed grass nearby. But pulling up to the house, something felt wrong. No cars in the driveway. Mail overflowing from the box. Newspapers accumulated on the porch. My stomach twisted as I knocked. No answer. I used my spare key. Inside the house felt hollow. Not just empty of people, but abandoned. The furniture remained, but personal touches had vanished. No photos on walls, no mom's knitting basket by the couch, no dad's reading glasses on the side table. The kitchen counters held nothing but dust. The refrigerator hummed empty. I called Mom's cell. She answered cheerfully, background noise suggesting a restaurant. "Where are you?" I asked. "I'm at the house." "Oh, honey, we're having breakfast with Amy and the kids. We'll be back later." "Back where you're not living at the house." Silence. Then Dad's voice taking the phone. "Nora, we needed to talk to you about that. We're staying with Amy for a bit, helping with the children." My legs felt weak. I sat on the couch I'd bought them. "Why aren't you living here?" "Well, Amy and Brad were having such a hard time in that tiny apartment. 2 kids sharing a room. You know how it is. They needed more space. So let them visit here. This is your house." Another pause. Mom took the phone back. "Sweetheart, they're living there now, just temporarily. Until they get on their feet. Brad's got a new job starting soon that pays better. They needed a proper address, you understand. The apartment was in a bad school district. The room spun. You gave them my house. The house I bought for you. It's still in the family. You're always saying family helps family. And you're doing so well, Nora. You don't have children. You don't understand the pressure they're under. Amy cries every night about failing her babies. This house gives them a chance." I hung up. My hands shook too violently to hold the phone. $30,000 down payment. 5 years of sacrifice. Countless nights alone. All handed over in 3 weeks to the daughter who'd never saved a penny, never worked overtime, never skipped anything for anyone. I drove past Amy's old apartment. My parents' car sat outside. Through the window I glimpsed them inside the cramped space where Amy's family had lived. The irony burned. They'd left a house to live in an apartment to give the house to someone else. The circular logic of dysfunction made my head pound. My phone exploded with texts. Mom explaining how Amy had promised they could visit whenever. Dad saying I should understand that parents help children in need. Amy herself thanking me for understanding, saying the kids loved having a yard, that I was the best aunt ever. Brad texted about planning renovations, asking if I knew good contractors. I didn't respond to any of them. Instead, I called Lisa. She answered on the second ring, heard my breathing, and simply said she'd be at my apartment in 20 minutes with wine and tissues. When she arrived, I couldn't form words initially. Just pointed at my phone, let her read the text chain. Her face cycled through confusion, disbelief, then rage. She threw my phone onto the couch and grabbed my shoulders. "They gave away your house. The house you bought. They gave it away." I nodded, then broke. Really broke. Not pretty tears, but ugly, snotty, can't-breathe sobbing. 5 years of deprivation for nothing. Every declined invitation, every lonely night, every generic brand purchase instead of name brand. The retirement dreams I'd deferred, the vacations I'd skipped, the relationships I'd let die. All of it meaningless. Lisa held me while I wailed. When exhaustion finally stopped the tears, she made tea and sat beside me. Her voice stayed calm, but I heard steel underneath. "You're done with them. You have to be done." But I couldn't be. Despite everything, they were my parents. Amy was my sister. Those kids were innocent. How could I just walk away from family? The next few days blurred together. Work became impossible. I called in sick, spending hours staring at walls. Amy posted photos on social media from her new house. My house. Pictures of the kids playing in the yard I'd landscaped. Brad grilling on the patio I'd furnished. Her caption read, "Blessed to have family that supports each other. Dreams do come true." Friends commented, congratulating her on the beautiful home. She responded with humble brags about manifesting positivity, about good things coming to those who wait. Not one mention of where the house came from. Like she'd earned it herself through cosmic deservedness rather than manipulation. Mom called daily, leaving voicemails about understanding, about forgiveness, about how family doesn't keep score. She'd mention Amy's struggles, Brad's job, stress the kids' needs, always the kids, as if children were currency that justified any betrayal. As if my childlessness made me less deserving of respect or consideration. Dad left one message. Short, uncomfortable. He said he knew I was upset, but hoped I'd see the bigger picture. That Amy needed help, and I'd already proven I could take care of myself. That maybe someday when I had kids, I'd understand putting them first. The assumption that children were my future, that my worth tied to reproduction, made me delete his number. 2 weeks passed before I responded to anyone. A group text, simple and clear. I need space to process this. Please respect that boundary. Amy responded immediately with guilt. The kids miss you. Don't punish them for adult decisions. Mom added that I was being dramatic. Dad said nothing. The next 6 months taught me about grief that doesn't involve death. I mourned the parents I thought I had, the relationship that existed only in my imagination. Therapy twice a week helped process the anger that threatened to consume everything. My therapist introduced terms like enmeshment, golden child, scapegoat. Labels that explained patterns but didn't ease pain. Work suffered initially. My boss noticed, offered flexibility. I threw myself into projects eventually needing distraction. A promotion came through senior marketing director with a salary that would have changed everything 5 years ago. Now it felt hollow. What was money when the people you'd earned it for saw you as nothing more than a resource to exploit? I stopped answering calls from my parents. Their voicemails evolved from confused to angry to pleading. Mom would cry about missing me. Dad would demand I stop being childish. Neither ever apologized. Neither acknowledged the betrayal. In their minds, they'd done nothing wrong. Parents help children who need it most. Amy needed it most. Simple math that erased my sacrifice. Amy's messages grew increasingly manipulative. Photos of the kids with captions about missing Aunt Nora. Videos of them saying they loved me. Emotional terrorism using innocence as weapons. When I didn't respond, she switched tactics. Accusations of selfishness. Claims I was jealous of her happiness. Threats to never let me see the kids again if I didn't forgive immediately. Brad reached out once asking about the property tax payment coming due. Did I have the paperwork? Could I handle it this year since the house transfer had been so recent? The audacity made me laugh. Actual laughter, sharp and bitter. I forwarded his message to my parents without comment. Thanksgiving approached. The family assumption was gathering at the house, my house. Amy playing hostess in the kitchen I'd designed. I declined without explanation. Mom called 17 times that day. I watched the phone ring, feeling nothing. Lisa invited me to her girlfriend's family dinner. They welcomed me warmly. No questions about my own family's absence. Social media became torture. Amy posted constantly from the house. Holiday decorations I would have hung differently. Furniture rearranged wrong. The garden already showing neglect. She'd painted the living room bright yellow, destroying the calm, neutral palette I'd chosen. Each change felt like vandalism of my dream. Friends who knew the situation urged me to fight legally. The house was in my parents' names, though. They could do whatever they wanted with it. No fraud, just betrayal. No crime, just cruelty. The law didn't protect against emotional manipulation or recognize sacrificial contributions without documentation. Christmas came. I spent it alone by choice. Ordered Chinese food, watched movies, drank good wine. It felt peaceful compared to the performance of family harmony I'd usually endure. No pretending Amy's gifts weren't bought with money she'd borrowed from our parents. No watching my parents praise her for thoughtfulness, while my carefully chosen presents got lukewarm thanks. January brought news through the family grapevine. Amy and Brad were struggling with house expenses. The mortgage payment was more than they'd anticipated. Utilities for a house cost more than an apartment. Property tax, homeowners, insurance maintenance. All things I'd budgeted for my parents, not for a young family living beyond means. The neighborhood HOA sent violations. Grass too long, garbage cans left out, unauthorized modifications to the front landscaping. Each fine added to their mounting bills. Brad's new job hadn't materialized. His promises of better income proved empty as always. Amy worked part-time retail, barely covering groceries. My parents supplemented from their fixed income. Social Security and Dad's small pension stretched to cover their apartment rent plus helping Amy. Mom mentioned in one voicemail they'd skipped medications to afford Amy's electric bill. The codependency ran so deep they'd literally sacrificed their health for the golden child's comfort. February arrived with bitter cold. The heating bill for the house tripled. Amy called me directly, not even pretending anymore. Could I help just this once? For the kids? They were family after all. I didn't respond. She texted increasingly desperate messages. Brad might leave if things didn't improve. The kids were asking why the house was so cold. Didn't I care about them? Then came the nuclear option. Mom called from Dad's phone, catching me off guard. I answered thinking something was wrong health-wise. Instead, she sobbed about Amy's situation. How Brad's mother was moving in to help with expenses. How there wasn't room for everyone. How Amy might lose the house if things didn't change. Let her lose it, I said. Maybe she'll learn consequences exist. Mom gasped. How can you be so cruel? She's your sister. She's a manipulator who took my gift to you and turned it into her personal playground. You let her. You chose her over me again like always. I'm done being the responsible one who fixes everyone's problems while being treated like an afterthought. The silence stretched before Mom spoke again, voice cold. We need somewhere to stay for a bit. Amy needs the space for Brad's mother. We thought we could come stay with you. The audacity hit like a physical blow. After giving away my house after choosing Amy consistently after months of no apology, they expected me to open my door. The entitlement was breathtaking. I laughed harsh and humorless. Absolutely not. You made your choice. Live with it. I hung up, turned off my phone, poured wine with shaking hands. They'd chosen Amy. Let Amy figure out their housing. Let the golden child they'd prioritized handle the consequences of their favoritism. I owed them nothing anymore. 3 days later, 7 a.m, my doorbell rang. Repeatedly, insistently. I knew before looking who it would be. Through the peephole, my parents stood with suitcases. Mom's face was red from crying or cold. Dad looked older than his 70 years, shoulders slumped in defeat. Opening the door took courage I didn't know I had. They stood there, these people who'd raised me, who'd taken my largest gift and given it away, expecting shelter. Mom started crying immediately. Dad couldn't meet my eyes. Their suitcases, cheap and worn, held everything they owned. We need help, Nora. Mom's voice cracked. Amy kicked us out. Brad's mother needed our room. We have nowhere else to go. I stepped aside, letting them enter, but not welcoming. My studio apartment had never felt smaller. They looked around, taking in the sparse furniture, the kitchenette, the bed visible from the living area. The judgment in their eyes was immediate despite their desperate situation. You still live here? Dad's surprise stung. With your salary, I live here because I spent 5 years saving every penny to buy you a house you gave away in 3 weeks. They flinched but rallied. Mom sat on my second-hand couch, wringing her hands. We didn't know Amy would do this. She promised we could always stay there. She said it would be different with more space, that Brad would be better without financial stress. But Brad's stress became yours, and now it's supposed to become mine. You're our daughter. Family helps family. That's what you always said. The irony of my own words weaponized against me burned. I sat across from them, these strangers wearing my parents' faces. They looked smaller, older, defeated, but also entitled, still expecting salvation from the daughter they'd never prioritized. Tell me what happened. All of it. The story unfolded in pieces. Amy had convinced them to put the house in her name for tax purposes. They'd signed papers without reading, trusting their golden child. Within a month, she'd refinanced, pulling out equity for Brad's promised business venture that never materialized. The mortgage payment doubled. When they couldn't contribute enough, she'd ask them to leave. "Where are your things?" "Furniture, clothes." Amy kept them. Said she needed everything for the house, that we could get them later when things settled. But she's not answering our calls now. The manipulation was breathtaking. Amy had literally stolen everything, including the house I'd bought, and our parents still made excuses. She was stressed. Brad was difficult. The kids needed stability, never acknowledging their own responsibility in enabling this disaster. "What exactly do you expect from me?" Mom reached for my hands. I pulled back. She looked hurt, but continued. "Just a few weeks, until we figure things out. We'll sleep on the couch. We won't be any trouble. We know the apartment is small, but we don't need much space." Dad added, "We're family, Nora. Despite everything, we're family." That word family had been used to justify every slight, every favoritism, every betrayal. Family meant I gave while they took. Family meant my achievements were expected while Amy's failures were excused. Family meant sacrifice without recognition, support without reciprocation. I went to my laptop, pulled up apartment listings. Senior housing with income-based rent. Several properties had immediate availability. I turned the screen toward them. "I'll help you get into one of these. I'll pay first month, last month security deposit. I'll help you apply for benefits you're eligible for. I'll make sure you have basics like food and medication. But you're not living here." Mom's tears intensified. "You're turning us away. Your own parents. I'm offering help with boundaries. Something you never taught me, but I learned anyway. You chose Amy over me repeatedly. When that backfired, you came here expecting unlimited support. That pattern ends now." Dad's face reddened. "After everything we did for you, raised you, supported your education. You mean the education I paid for myself with 3 jobs. The raising that involved me parenting Amy while you worked. The support that disappeared the moment Amy needed anything. Please list everything you sacrificed for me." "I'll wait." Silence. Because the list didn't exist. Every milestone of mine had been self-achieved. Every accomplishment minimized next to Amy's needs. They'd been present physically but absent emotionally, except when they needed something. "This is cruel," Mom whispered. "We made mistakes, but we're still your parents. And I'm still your daughter. The one whose gift you gave away. The one you never apologized to. The one you contacted only when Amy's situation affected you. I'm offering more grace than you showed me. Take it or leave it." They wanted to argue more, but exhaustion and desperation won. We spent the day visiting apartments. I co-signed leases, knowing the financial risk, but needing boundaries. The senior complex we chose was clean, safe, subsidized. 1 bedroom, but theirs. No one could take it away. I furnished it, basically. Bed, couch, table, chairs. Goodwill provided most items. I stocked the refrigerator, paid utilities deposits, ensured they had phones. The total cost was roughly $8,000. A fraction of what I'd spent on the house, but it felt heavier somehow. Throughout the process, they alternated between gratitude and resentment. Thankful for help, but angry about conditions. Mom mentioned Amy repeatedly, wondering how she was managing if the kids were okay. Even homeless because of Amy, she worried about the golden child first. Dad said little beyond logistics. I caught him staring at me sometimes, like seeing me for the first time. This daughter who'd worked silently in shadows suddenly had boundaries, expectations, a spine. It clearly unsettled him, this shift in power dynamics. The day they moved in, Mom hugged me tentatively. "Will you visit when I'm ready?" "Not before." "What about Amy?" "The kids. That's not my problem or yours anymore. Amy made choices. Consequences exist. They wanted to protest but recognized the futility. I'd drawn lines they couldn't cross anymore. The unlimited well of support had run dry. They'd have to learn to balance without me as their safety net. The following months brought revelations and reckonings. My parents adjusted to their senior apartment, slowly finding unexpected community among neighbors experiencing similar struggles. Mom joined a craft circle. Dad discovered the building's workshop. Without Amy's constant crisis management, they began resembling the people they might have been. Amy's situation deteriorated predictably. Brad's mother moved out after 2 months, citing Amy's laziness and Brad's temper. Without her financial contribution, they couldn't maintain the mortgage. Foreclosure notices started arriving. Amy called me drunk one night, screaming about family betrayal, about my selfishness destroying her children's lives. I recorded the call, her slurred words revealing the entitlement she'd always hidden better when sober. She admitted taking the house had been planned from the moment I'd mentioned buying it. Brad had convinced her she deserved it more. After all, she had children. She was struggling. I was single, successful, childless. What did I need with family space? The recording became useful when extended family intervened. Aunts and uncles who'd heard Amy's version painting me as the villain who'd abandoned elderly parents and innocent children. I sent them the audio, her confession of manipulation, her admission of planning. Most apologized. Some still sided with her because children trumped everything, apparently. The house went to foreclosure auction in September. I didn't bid, though part of me wanted to. Let it go to strangers. Let Amy explain to her kids why they had to leave the home their aunt had originally provided. Let Brad figure out his next manipulation without my family's resources to exploit. They moved into a 2-bedroom apartment in a complex known for transient residents and thin walls. Amy got a second job. Brad mysteriously developed back problems that prevented working but not video gaming. The kids started acting out at school, their stability shattered. Every consequence I'd predicted had materialized. My parents wanted to help them. Of course they did. Mom would mention Amy's struggles during our monthly coffee meetings I'd finally agreed to. Dad would hint about Brad trying to change. I'd remind them they had no resources to offer anymore. They'd given everything already. The bank was closed. Therapy helped me understand the patterns, how generational dysfunction perpetuated until someone broke the cycle. I was that someone, the family scapegoat who'd finally refused the role. It wasn't comfortable. Growth never is. But it was necessary for survival, for sanity, for self-respect. Lisa watched my transformation with pride and concern. She'd worried I'd backslide, that family guilt would erode my boundaries. Instead, they strengthened. I started dating Marcus, a software engineer who'd also navigated family manipulation. He understood boundaries weren't cruel but crucial. Work flourished without family drama consuming mental energy. The senior director position led to VP considerations. I bought a condo, small but mine. No guest room. That was intentional. Visitors would need hotels maintaining physical boundaries that reinforced emotional ones. The holidays approached again. Mom asked if I'd considered joining them at their apartment. Maybe Amy and the kids, too. We could be a family again. The assumption that time erased betrayal without acknowledgement, apology, or change showed they still didn't understand. I declined politely. Marcus and I had plans. Travel to places I'd never seen because I'd been saving for others' dreams instead of living my own. Mom cried. Dad sighed. But they didn't argue anymore. They'd learned that pushing meant longer distances between contact. Amy tried one last manipulation. She sent the kids to my office with a note. They stood in the lobby, confused and scared, holding paper that read, "Since you care more about money than family, maybe seeing their faces will remind you what matters." Security called me down. I called child services instead of Amy. Let authorities explain why using children as emotional weapons was abuse. The investigation that followed revealed neglect I hadn't known about. Brad's gaming addiction. Amy's drinking. The kids' school attendance problems. They didn't lose custody, but received mandated supervision, parenting classes, regular check-ins. Amy blamed me for involving authorities. I felt no guilt. Those children deserved better than manipulation disguised as parenting. My parents finally apologized during a particularly raw conversation. Not perfectly, not completely, but genuinely enough that I felt something shift. Mom admitted she'd always feared Amy's volatility, so she'd appeased rather than confronted. Dad acknowledged taking my stability for granted, assuming I'd always manage regardless. It wasn't enough to rebuild what they'd destroyed, but it created possibility for something new. Not the relationship I'd wanted as a child, but perhaps one that acknowledged me as an adult, who'd earned respect through survival, despite them not because of them. Marcus proposed the following spring. A small ceremony planned, family invited, but not central. My parents would attend as guests, not as honored positions they'd assumed. Amy wasn't invited. That door had closed permanently. The kids could reconnect when they were adults if they chose. I wouldn't facilitate or prevent it. Life evolved into something I hadn't imagined during those years of desperate saving. Not the family unity I'd tried to purchase with a house, but individual peace I'd earned through boundaries. The sacrifice hadn't been worthless, just redirected. Instead of buying their love, I'd bought my freedom. Today, 3 years after that morning, they appeared with suitcases. My life barely resembles what it was. The promotion to VP came through. Marcus and I bought a house together, one we chose and furnished for our future, not anyone else's approval. We host dinners for chosen family friends who've become siblings by choice rather than blood. My parents and I maintain a careful relationship. Coffee, monthly calls. Weekly boundaries always. They live independently in their senior apartment, having discovered they actually like the community, the activities, the freedom from maintaining a house. They've made friends, found hobbies that don't revolve around Amy's crisis management. Amy and I haven't spoken since the child services incident. I hear updates through family gossip. Brad left, found another woman to manipulate. Amy kept the kids. Works multiple jobs, complains constantly about unfairness. She still posts on social media about family betrayal, about siblings who choose money over blood. The comments have dwindled as people recognize the pattern. The kids are teenagers now. Sometimes I wonder if they'll reach out when they're adults, seeking their aunt who disappeared. I've saved letters for them, explanations without blame toward their mother, just truth about boundaries and self-respect. Maybe they'll understand. Maybe they won't. That's their choice to make. Lisa remains my anchor, the sister I chose rather than the one genetics assigned. She jokes that my family could be a sociology dissertation on dysfunction. We laugh because otherwise we'd cry about the years lost to obligation, disguised as love manipulation, marketed as family values. Marcus's family welcomed me without reservation. His parents treat me like a daughter, not a resource. His sister includes me without calculation. Family gatherings feel foreign in their ease, their genuine affection, their lack of scorekeeping. I'm still learning to accept love without suspicion, support without strings. The house on Maple Street sold again last year. I drove by recently, curious. New owners had restored the garden, painted the living room a soft gray, added a swing set. Children played in the yard I'd landscaped, but these were strangers living their own dreams, not performing in someone else's. Sometimes I calculate the cost of that house, not just the $55,000, but the years of isolation, the relationships deferred, the experiences skipped. Then I remember it bought me something invaluable. Not my parents' love, which shouldn't have required purchasing. Not family unity, which can't exist without mutual respect. It bought me clarity about my worth independent of their validation. The greatest lesson came wrapped in the deepest pain. Love isn't measured by sacrifice. Family isn't defined by blood. Worth isn't determined by what you provide others. These truths, learned through betrayal and loss, guide my decisions now. Every choice filters through boundaries earned in fire. My therapist graduated me to maintenance sessions. We meet quarterly now, checking that old patterns haven't crept back. She says I've rewritten my family script, that my future children, if we have them, will grow up knowing love doesn't require self-erasure, that boundaries create safety, not separation. The money I earn now goes toward our future. Retirement savings, travel funds, charity for foster children aging out without family support. Every dollar spent on myself or causes I choose feels revolutionary after decades of compulsory giving to people who valued the gift over the giver. Mom asked recently if I'd forgiven them. I told her forgiveness wasn't binary. I'd released the anger that poisoned me. I'd accepted they were flawed humans doing their best with limited tools, but forgetting wasn't possible or wise. The scars reminded me why boundaries existed, why self-protection wasn't selfish but essential. She cried, but differently than before. Not manipulation tears, but genuine sorrow for opportunities lost, relationships, damaged trust broken. I held her hand, this woman who'd birthed, but not seen me, loved, but not known me. We sat in that imperfect peace, two humans navigating the wreckage of family mythology towards something resembling truth. Dad struggles more with the dynamic shift. He'll occasionally mention Amy's hardships testing boundaries. I redirect consistently, refusing engagement with guilt disguised as conversation. He's learning slowly that I'm not the family shock absorber anymore. His relationship with Amy has fractured too, her demands exhausting even his patience. The extended family has reorganized around this new reality. Some relatives understand and respect my boundaries. Others judge from comfortable distances, having never experienced similar betrayal. I've stopped explaining or defending. People either understand boundaries or they don't. Their opinions don't determine my choices anymore. Marcus watches this evolution with compassionate fascination. His family had different dysfunctions, but he recognizes the courage required to break generational patterns. When we discuss our future children, we plan teaching them about healthy relationships, about love that doesn't manipulate, about family that supports without scorekeeping. Sometimes I dream about that house on Maple Street. Not nightmares anymore, just visits to a symbol of everything I thought I needed to earn love. In dreams, it's empty, waiting. I walk through rooms I furnished with hope, gardens I planted with exhaustion, masquerading as devotion. Then I wake in my own bed in my own home beside someone who loves me without price tags. The journey from people-pleasing to self-preservation wasn't linear or pretty. It required grieving the family I'd imagined while accepting the one I had. It meant releasing the role of responsible eldest daughter, who fixed everything while receiving nothing. It demanded believing I deserved reciprocal relationships, not charitable ones. Would I buy that house again, knowing the outcome? Yes. Because it wasn't really about the house. It was about discovering my worth existed independently of their recognition. The betrayal that followed was blessing disguised as curse, forcing boundaries I'd never have set otherwise. Amy's manipulation freed me from lifetime servitude to dysfunction. These days, success means something different. Not accumulating enough to purchase love, but recognizing real love doesn't require purchase. Not sacrificing until noticed, but understanding people who care notice without sacrifice. Not earning family through service, but choosing family through mutual respect. The little girl who helped raise her sister while invisible to her parents has evolved into a woman who refuses invisibility. The teenager who worked 3 jobs for college became an executive who invests in herself first. The adult who bought parents a house they gave away became someone who gives wisely with boundaries and reciprocity expected. This is the real inheritance from that house on Maple Street. Not property or gratitude, but freedom from needing either. The gift I thought I was giving them became the gift I gave myself, permission to stop trying to earn what should have been freely given, courage to walk away from those who couldn't see my worth, wisdom to build family from friends who could. When people ask about my family, I tell them the truth. I have parents I see monthly, a sister I don't see at all, and chosen family I see constantly. The configuration confuses those from traditional families, but survivors of dysfunction understand immediately. We recognize each other, we refugees from emotional war zones, building peaceful kingdoms from boundaries and self-respect. Thank you for listening to my story. Has anyone in your family ever taken advantage of your generosity like this? How did you handle the betrayal when family chose favorites over fairness? Please share your experiences in the comments below. If this story resonated with you, please hit like and subscribe for more stories about overcoming family dysfunction and finding your worth. And if you know someone struggling with similar family dynamics, please share this video with them. Sometimes knowing you're not alone in these experiences makes all the difference. Remember, you can't buy love that should be free, and you shouldn't have to. Until next time, protect your peace and know your worth.